Before starting the Daisy Gardens taskline, I got level 5 for all of my gags. Hopefully this is the turning point for early and mid-game difficulty, as my lure has somewhat reliable accuracy now. For the tasks I start out with, I go to Innkeeper Janet to duplicate her task. Her building is taken over by a 1-story though, so I decide to just save myself the trouble and retake the building rather than district swap. It doesn't have any notable events, but is a good spot for me to explain some damage thresholds I went for. On Whole Cream Pie, I trained up until it dealt 38 damage. This is to allow my Whole Cream Pie to one-shot level 6 cogs as long as they're lured. If it was 36 or 37, the cog would otherwise live despite showing the bonus visual rounding up. In TTR, 37 would be the point to kill lured level 6s, but that's because that server rounds up the decimal value. Toontown Online does not round at all, resulting in a lured 37 Whole Cream dealing 55.5 damage. Then with Elephant Trunk, I trained it to deal 20 damage so I can clear a row of level 3s without wasting lure, throw, or squirt. It isn't the most important level I'll be dealing with anymore, but it can be helpful in a pinch. I could have gone for 21 damage to 2 round level 5s, but if I face a level 5, I will likely be luring anyway. Innkeeper Janet didn't have her task at first, so I take Detective Lima's task as well. After that, I start Janet's task since her task pool re-rolled. Her task is just to defeat 10 cogs in Daisy Gardens, so I focus on Lima's task instead as that requires a bit more moving around. After taking out 5 Cellbots in Cellbot HQ, I then have to talk to Judge McIntosh. With a district swap, I have to continue fighting Cellbots for blueprints in Cellbot HQ. Since I take on a level 5, I also got my Fire Hose to deal 28 damage. This is to one-shot lured level 5s and save on Whole Creams for level 6 cogs. I collect the blueprints first try and get my 35 pouch easily. I make my way to Postman Felipe to begin his task, but it's taken over by a field office. I have lure and stronger gags now, so I may as well give this field office a try. If I still can't complete these, I may be in some trouble for later down the line. Level 7 Name Dropper and level 8 Mingler. This actually isn't too bad, as the Mingler has subpar accuracy at its level, and the Name Dropper could opt for its weaker attacks. Lure hits turn 1, thankfully. I focus the Name Dropper since I can 2-turn it. Unfortunately, I get hit by Rolodex, its strongest attack. I kill it anyway, and can afford to take a hit from the Mingler. I go for Whole Cream, but I know I need a lure for a 2-round. I dodge Power Trip and lure hits. Fire Hose cleans up for the kill and a level 5 Name Dropper arrives. I've basically won at this point. Lure hits and I kill the Name Dropper without a problem. The reward Felipe gives me is a D version, a 2-round Lure SOS that will prove incredibly useful in future parts when I begin to farm for it. Felipe's task is all about collecting postcards from Double Talkers, so after some street fights, a building, and even more street fights, I stop by Janet's shop to turn in her task since I completed that on the side. I grab a task for 6 Cellbots for another 2 laugh, and return to finding the rest of the Double Talkers. I go into another building, and while it was simple, I should bring up how Lure behaves with reserved cogs in buildings. Due to a slight error with the game using the knockback bonus assignment on cog positioning rather than cog ID, not every lured cog will have knockback. Fortunately, figuring out what cogs do and don't have knockback isn't terribly difficult and can be done consistently. For a 1 cog reserve, it will have knockback. For a 2 cog reserve to appear from the elevator, neither of them will have knockback until one dies. For a 3 cog reserve, the middle cog will have knockback. And for 4 cog reserves, the middle left and far right cogs will have knockback. These rules do change a bit in facilities, but those will be covered once they're relevant. I grabbed the last few postcards and turned them in for an extra 2 laugh. After talking to some shopkeepers, I grab a task for 6 Mover and Shakers to carry 3 Toon tasks. Normally, an HQ officer would provide a task for multiple cog buildings to give this reward. That task, though, is a trap. As if you complete that task, they'll require you to do multiple 2+ story cog buildings after, and then finish with multiple 3+ story cog buildings. That's just unnecessary effort when I can utilize task skipping instead. To skip a task, you just need to talk to shopkeepers and not HQ officers. HQ officers will always offer the task you want to skip, so shopkeepers are the ones with better alternatives. Since I already need Cellbots, I grab Mover and Shakers for easy synergy. With both of my tasks being centered around Cellbots, I ran some field offices. I took one down and lost against the others, so I decided to get the rest of the Cellbots on the street. After finishing the 6th Cellbot task, I grab Uncle Spud's task, as I will also be going to Cellbot HQ to grab Shakers there, which will allow me to grab his memos at the same time. I do get the most unlucky death against a telemarketer, dodging a seltzer that would have killed it. But aside from that, both tasks were finished pretty smoothly. I grabbed the task to get a key from Minglers, but I won't be focusing on that just yet. I don't have many tasks left, so I figured I would grab it now so I can ensure that I need Minglers for it. I run through Janet's task again, but I attempt to do my key task by running a couple field offices and a 3-story building. They do not go well. I eventually get a second laugh boost from fishing, completely unintentional. But each laugh point counts, so I am glad to see it. I continue to just finish Janet's task so I can figure out a new approach for my final upcoming tasks. I grab what is currently the hardest task for this challenge so far, Coach Zucchini's task. I don't go to him just yet though, as I decide to try some Donald's Dock field offices, as those may be a bit easier than Daisy Gardens and still give me a Mingler. Nothing really came out of it though, so I may be forced to deal with my biggest hurdle sooner rather than later. I rescue Coach Z's building, as it was a 2-story Cellbot building, still with no Mingler. Coach Z's task is just one thing: do a Cellbot factory. Coach Z suggests I go with some strong tunes as guides, but that isn't an option here. Dealing with the factory in my current condition is incredibly rough. I have to manage every single gag I use and time my restocks accordingly, something I have already done in Toontown Rewritten as a solo challenge run to help conceptualize with a friend who may be doing a similar operation as mine. While each fight was consistent from the get-go on TTR, I have to manage not just my gags, but also my lower laugh and cog lure knockback. On my side, theoretically, are field office SOS cards. I ran a few field offices to try and stock up on them, but ultimately they did not turn out to be that useful. Lure and tune-up SOSs were my key focuses, but the issues revolved around the fact that I occasionally had to use the Lure SOS cards in field offices due to the higher level fights, and tune-up SOS cards are so weak, even with my low laugh, where only a 2-star tune-up SOS will make any impactful effect. Either way, I press onward to the solo factory. I lose these factory runs. A lot. Nearly 2 hours of failures. I tried a lot of things. Just standard strategies, implementing auto-tune and Butterfingers SOS cards, Emma Faddock to heal at one point, conserving even more throw than I normally do, attempting a glitch out of bounds prior to this entire challenge run, anything. I could go over each one and play by play, but that would probably add an hour to this video just for condensed explanations on all the ways I could fail, get bad accuracy rolls, and run into goons accidentally. I can't reliably run field offices to earn SOS cards, as my success rate varied extremely. It's clear that my current gags aren't suited for a solo factory on Toontown Online. I could theoretically get the perfect luck and win, but the Foreman fight is also a significant roadblock due to how knockback works in factories. Statistically speaking, while this isn't impossible, I have such low odds of success that I need to swallow my pride and train my gags before I finish Daisy Gardens. I previously conceptualized a gag level restriction rule, but this factory is the reason why that rule doesn't exist in this run. It can be done in TTR at a reasonable likelihood, but for TTO I am truly at my limit. So after some off-screen gag training, I have gotten Hypno Goggles, Birthday Cake, and Storm Cloud. I get the latter two gags when their damage values are at their lowest. This means my Birthday Cake only does 48 damage, killing up to lured 7s and unlured 5s. Storm Cloud does 36, only killing up to lured 5s and unlured 4s. I run a field office to test these gags out, as field offices in Daisy Gardens at least have cogs close to the factory levels, and despite some horrible accuracy rolls, I succeed. I do run another field office, and fortunately get Minglers in this run, giving me the first key that I needed for the teleport access task. Now that I need the key to Daisy Gardens specifically, and have level 6 gags, I try the factory again. I lose. But this time I got close, and primarily lost to a bad lure roll and a giving up turn 2. I try again. Same situation but without giving up. I lose to a bad lure roll. 80% accuracy rolls sure are wonderful, aren't they? I try again, fail on the west silo. I try again, get right to the foreman as the lone cog, and then fail. At this point, it feels like I'm bashing my head into a concrete wall. But considering how close I've gotten, I can't give up. Then, it happens. I finally pull through and beat the factory, getting a straight hitless run until the foreman and none of my gags missing. Let's run through how this factory went and explain something about lure as well. I start at the front entrance. Since I have a lot of throw as is, and the pipe room skip is harder in 2013 TTO, I save myself the trouble and start here. I open up with an elephant trunk to clear the level 3s so I can save my big magnet for later fights. I get a lucky dodge and kill with fire hose, as that gag won't be used for more than just killing a few level 4s and 5s. I take the boiler room for lower cog levels, but I talk to the level 6 Gladhander specifically. There is a reason for this as it relates to how lure works here. Cogs are created by lower level first in factories. The cog you talk to in here will always have knockback, but the other cogs need to enter the battle in descending level order, or in other words, they need to be ordered in the way that the game creates them. This means that in order to get perfect knockback ordering on all of these cogs, I need the level 5 on the left, level 3 in the middle, and the 6 I talk to on the right. If I spoke to the 3, I would need the order to be 6-5-3. Talking to the 6 means that I just have to ensure that the level 3 cog walks in first, which I was successful. Fortunately for this fight, it actually doesn't matter too much since I won round level 3 no matter what. This at least demonstrates the proper knockback order and will become easier to understand in later fights. Going into the warehouse, I talk to the 6 since I need that to have knockback so I can one-round it after lure. The 4s can be cleared up with hose, so I can afford to mess up the knockback order as long as the 5 is the last cog remaining. It goes smoothly without anything missing. The proper knockback order would have been 6-5-4-4 and talking to one of the level 4s. But since all cogs are stationary before battle, it's more trouble than it's worth to set them up when I can hose both of the 4s. Going into the west silo, I wait for my opportunity to talk to the far left 6. The Gladhander's positioning is right in the middle, so just to ensure that he joins the fight before the 7, I talk to the far left 6. It goes perfectly. I do the same thing for the east silo, no problems there. I go all the way back to the front entrance in order to grab the birthday cake barrel. While the power difference isn't significant, I do want to ensure that I have more than enough gags to take down the foreman's cogs, should I get any unlucky rolls. I talk to a 6 so I get a guaranteed 1v3 after lure, then I focus on tanking hits and killing as fast as possible. After a whole cream on the telemarketer, I go for trunk because I will be 2-rounding the name dropper no matter what, and the foreman will wake up before I can take advantage of lure knockback. I dodge both attacks, lure, then kill the name dropper with storm. All that's left is the foreman, which goes down in a lured cake plus unlured storm combo. The suffering is finally over, and after a perfect factory run, I still made it through at 19 laugh and could have died if I didn't dodge both attacks from the first unluring. It's really crazy how much of a difficulty spike that was. That's not the end of Daisy Gardens though. I still need that key to Daisy Gardens. No minglers were seen in the successful factory run, so I run 3 field offices. No mingler, but I at least got SOS cards out of them. I do a 4th field office and find a mingler, which after surviving at 1 laugh, I obtain the key to Daisy Gardens. After turning it in, Daisy Gardens taskline is over and I can move onward to Minnie's Melody Land, which should hopefully be a much needed rest period for me. Until next time though.